Hello everyone, it's Crime Time, and today's Crime Time is about a whole family. Way back in 2008, this one family hit the scene on Wife Swap, where moms traded places to live in someone else's shoes for a bit. Fast forward a few years, and this same family found themselves in the middle of a wild case that no one saw coming. When their story popped back up, it blew everyone's mind, especially those who watched their OG episode. The Stockdale family, known for their appearance on Wife Swap, became a topic of discussion. Wife Swap is a reality TV show that's quite the guilty pleasure for many. The show features two families with contrasting lifestyles swapping moms to experience each other's lives. It often exaggerates the differences between the families for dramatic effect. Before the swap, each wife writes down rules for the other to follow in their household. This often leads to clashes and drama, making for entertaining television. The show originally aired from 2004 to 2010 and was later rebooted as Celebrity Wife Swap, which focused on swapping the wives of celebrity couples. In 2008, during the fourth season of Wife Swap, the Stockdale family from Stark County, Ohio was featured. The family consisted of parents Tim and Catherine, along with their four sons, Calvin, Charles, Jacob, and James. They lived on a farm in a rural town and raised their children very conservatively. The boys had limited access to traditional media and were not allowed to watch TV, play video games, date, listen to rap or hip-hop music, eat candy, swear, or have unmonitored internet access. Catherine homeschooled all four boys with strict schedules and rules to protect them from negative influences. She believed that a strong work ethic and structure were essential for their success in life. The boys were heavily influenced by bluegrass music and eventually formed the Stockdale family band, with Tim, Calvin, Charles, Jacob, and James playing various instruments. Catherine managed the band, which became a significant responsibility for the family alongside managing their farm and education. The Stockdale family band was quite successful, traveling around the U.S. and winning several regional competitions. They wrote 3 albums together and performed in various states, including Indiana, Michigan, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania. Their performances were mainly in small venues like churches, theaters, and country fairs. Jacob, the third son born in May 1992, started taking music lessons at 7 and was already skilled in the fiddle by the time the band started when he was 12. Despite their love for bluegrass, they had strict rules around band rehearsals, which were even stricter than usual. When they appeared on Wife Swap, their strict rules were highlighted, contrasting with the liberal lifestyle of the Tonkovic family from Illinois, with whom they swapped. Lori Tonkovic, who swapped with Catherine Stockdale, lived a very different life, allowing her children much more freedom than the Stockdales. In the episode, Catherine left a detailed family manual for Lori, outlining the boys' daily requirements and explaining her parenting choices. The manual described the Stockdale family band and their dedication to bluegrass music. Catherine explained that they moved to the countryside to shield their children from negative influences like violence, sex, drugs, and modern music. They homeschooled to maintain control over their children's education and activities, banning TV, video games, and unmonitored internet access. Surprisingly, the boys were not allowed to play sports, as Catherine believed it would make them too self-centered and competitive. Everything in their home had to be earned, including watching a pre-approved TV show or having a stick of gum, which they could earn through chores and farm work. Catherine managed the household and taught the children, while Tim ran the farm and worked a second full-time job, delivering animal nutrients to farmers across Ohio. The family manual emphasized that chores were not seen as free labor, but as a way to instill a good work ethic and selfless attitude in the children. They believed that working together kept the family grounded and bonded. The boys were taught to work with their hands, which included chores, yard work, and cleaning. Mealtime was also structured. The family ate together unless Tim was away for work or Calvin was at college. Meals were not rushed, and there was a detailed menu for each day. The boys were not allowed to have candy or snacks between meals. If they didn't finish a meal, they wouldn't get anything else until they finished what was on their plate. The boys had a strict schedule, waking up at 7:30 every day with a 4-minute warning before breakfast. If they were late for breakfast, they were charged 25 cents, with the fee increasing the later they were. Catherine believed this taught them about financial penalties. The manual also listed potential meals for Lori to cook, including link sausage on bread with sauerkraut, breakfast giblets, fried liver on bread and butter, herb-baked chicken with salad, scrambled eggs, and sardines on hot buttered toast with mustard. After breakfast, each boy had to do their chores before starting homeschooling. Catherine required them to get A's on all their materials before moving forward with new lessons. She believed homeschooling gave her control over what her sons were taught and the moral lessons they learned. The boys also had daily debate lessons at 4 p.m. In the evenings, they had dinner, practiced their instruments, and followed the band's contract. Catherine emphasized that the number one rule in their house was obedience to their parents. She believed teaching respect was crucial in a world where many children disrespected adults. The boys were not allowed to physically or verbally hurt each other, and they had to clean up any messes they made. During the swap, Lori changed the rules, allowing the boys to experience things they were not used to, like playing video games. However, they felt guilty about it. Jacob even expressed fear that his parents would think he would burn in hell for playing. Lori also tried to introduce the idea of dating, but the boys were scared to break family rules. Catherine, on the other hand, was shocked by the freedom Lori's children had, especially since their significant others lived with them. She tried to teach them lessons by having them carry crying baby dolls to simulate the responsibilities of having children. At the end of the 2 weeks, both wives were ready to return to their lives. They met to discuss what they had learned and criticized each other's parenting. However, when Lori called Catherine a terrible parent, it caused tension between them. Calvin and Charles eventually left home for college, Calvin attending Hillsdale College in Michigan and Charles studying in Philadelphia. Jacob and James remained at home, continuing to play in their family band without their older brothers. Jacob also joined a second band and won several regional contests. However, tragedy struck on June 15, 2017. A 911 call from the Stockdale residence led police to the scene where they found Catherine and James Stockdale dead from gunshot wounds. Jacob was also found with a gunshot wound to the head, but he was still alive. It was determined to be an attempted double murder self-inflicted death. Jacob was rushed to Metro Health Medical Center for his life-threatening injuries. The Stark County Sheriff provided details of the incident, stating that they received a 911 hang-up call from the Stockdale residence. Deputies found the front door open and someone lying on the floor. Despite verbal commands, there was no response, and a gunshot was heard from inside the house. They approached tactically and found Jacob Stockdale with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. During a press conference, the sheriff mentioned that they had no prior calls to the residence and no reason to believe anyone was in danger. The murder weapon was identified as a 20-gauge shotgun. The motive was unclear, and speculation was discouraged pending further investigation. Jacob was still in critical care at the time of the press conference, and authorities hoped to interview him once he stabilized. Calvin and Charles, the older brothers, were notified of the incident. Calvin described James, the youngest, as the catalyst of family fun, a talented musician working towards a business degree. He was loved by many and left behind a grieving family and friends. 3 days after the incident, the remaining family members expressed optimism about Jacob's recovery, expecting him to make a full recovery despite the surgeries and procedures ahead. Calvin issued a statement on behalf of the family, expressing love and forgiveness for Jacob, and thanking the community for their support and prayers. The community rallied around the family, donating over $31,000 to a GoFundMe campaign. These funds were used for Catherine and James' memorial service and Jacob's medical expenses, which sparked some controversy. James required over a year of care at Metro Health Medical Center to recover from his injuries. Once Jacob's condition improved, the Stark County Sheriff's Department filed charges against him, considering him the prime suspect. Jacob turned himself in before an arrest was made and was informed of the charges. His bond was set at $1 million. During the pre-trial proceedings, Jacob's defense attorney filed a motion to determine his competency, considering his mental health struggles before and after the incident. Jacob eventually pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. After a psychiatric evaluation, it was determined that Jacob did not have a mental illness that would prevent him from understanding the legal proceedings. So he was deemed fit to stand trial. However, his defense attorney believed he was not fit and requested a second opinion, which concluded that Jacob was not competent to stand trial but could be restored with intense treatment. A third opinion was denied due to cost, and based on the evaluations, the judge declared Jacob incompetent and ordered him to receive treatment at Heartland Behavioral Healthcare Hospital. The double murder trial was delayed until Jacob could be deemed competent. While at Heartland, Jacob attempted to escape twice, once by hiding in the library and another by blending in with people exiting the building. However, in January 2020, a psychiatrist determined that Jacob was competent to stand trial after participating in various restoration activities, including group therapy and mock trials. The psychiatrist noted that Jacob was able to understand court proceedings and terminology and could respond relevantly during the mock trials. The report convinced the judge that Jacob was competent. However, a sanity hearing was necessary to determine if he would serve his sentence in jail or a mental health facility. This hearing was scheduled for March 30th, but was delayed several times due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Jacob teleconferenced from Heartland Behavioral Medical Center for the June 22nd hearing. During the hearing, Jacob often did not respond or acknowledge the judge, which his attorney attributed to his difficulty with technology or fear of using it given his upbringing. The judge reviewed his behavior at Heartland, including escape attempts and a letter from a doctor indicating Jacob was now competent. After more than a year of treatment, including group therapy twice a week, Jacob Stockdale's mental health had improved, but he still believed his family was alive. His legal team pursued a not guilty by reason of insanity plea. Despite being deemed competent to stand trial, Jacob maintained his plea of not guilty by reason of insanity for the murders of his mother, Catherine, and his younger brother, James. The defense attorney brought in not one, but two expert witnesses who testified that Jacob was schizophrenic. They laid out a compelling case showing he believed he was living in an alternate reality, completely unaware of his surroundings. Jacob's family had long suspected he might be battling a mental illness, even before the tragic events. In the year leading up to the murders, Jacob had become increasingly isolated on his farm. He stopped going out and cut off socializing, and his paranoia grew, according to some of his family members. One of his attorneys poignantly stated, "What happened here is a tragedy. Jacob is in a state of psychosis. He is not guilty by reason of insanity." With the testimonies in, Jacob's fate hung in the balance. The jury deliberated for a mere 2 hours before delivering their verdict. Jacob Stockdale was found guilty and sentenced to 30 years of life in prison. He was given the chance to speak at his sentencing, but he chose to remain silent. If you enjoyed this case, check out this one where a 16-year-old girl was shot in her own bedroom.